Welcome to Fearless with Jason Whitlock. I am Jason Whitlock, your host. Thank you for joining me. Happy Thursday to you and yours. It's the day after Hump Day. We're almost to the weekend. Friday's just around the corner. We have an awesome, fantastic show planned for you today. It's a bit of a serious show to start out with. Matt Walsh of the Daily Wire, of the man that made the documentary What is a Woman, is under serious attack. He's been hacked. His family has been targeted. We're going to get into that and what it all means. We're also going to, TJ Moe is going to help me unpack that. Then Virgil Walker is going to join me, and we're going to talk about a little bit of Matt Walsh, but also a lot about a guy named Stephen Wolfe, who wrote the book Christian Nationalism, The Case for Christian Nationalism. Stephen Wolfe put out a tweet in the past 24, 48 hours that offended some, did not offend me. He basically said white evangelicals are the lone bulwark fighting the transgender movement, fighting American immorality, or the insanity going on in America. That offended some, didn't offend me. It concerned me that he would make that comment. We'll talk about it with Virgil Walker. He may have a different take. Shamika Michelle is going to come on and join the show and talk about Jonathan Majors, the movie star, who looks like he's going to be the Deshaun Watson of Hollywood. Accusations flying everywhere, women coming out of the woodwork, apparently accusing Jonathan Majors of abusive behavior. We'll see if this ends his career. We'll also talk with Shamika about the interracial couple in Chicago that the black teenagers attacked. It looked like they attacked a white woman, but they actually attacked a white woman and her black boyfriend. We'll talk about that with Shamika Michelle. And then we will end the show. I keep telling you guys in the audience, if you want to get on the show, the way to get on the show is to download the Approval app and do something in that Approval app that catches my attention, and bada bing, bada boom, you can be right here on the show debating me. We're going to circle back to the kid from Purdue. We had him on earlier in the week. His dad is like a brother, a cousin to me. I've been, a part of the Bowles family, and the Bowles family has been a part of the Whitlock family for my entire life. Freddie, my 50-some-odd-year friend, his youngest son, Jordan, has quite the personality and knows how to get on that the Approval rating app. And you can download it from your Apple store, from your Google Play store if you got an Android phone. But he's got some thoughts on Dylan Brooks and the Memphis Grizzlies and LeBron James and what LeBron's response is going to be to that loss that the Lakers had last night. And so we'll end the show on a lighter note, inviting you, the audience, into the show. If you want to get on the show, download that Approval app, catch my attention, and with your comments or with your ratings, and you too can be on the show. Before I get to talking about today's show and our primary sponsor today, I do want to tell you right now, start pounding that like button. So this is going to be an awesome show. We need 5,000 likes. I need you hitting in the comments. I need you hitting the subscribe. I need you getting the notifications. If you're listening over Apple, pound that 5-star rating. Write a little review in. We need to fight the algorithm because, again, as you listen to me unpack this Matt Walsh story, you'll start to figure out what it is we're up against and why your support is the only thing standing between us and being shadow banned, demonetized, eviscerated, erased, censored from YouTube and from all of these platforms. And that's why you have to join the fight and fight the algorithm. With these likes are very important. These 5-star reviews on Apple are very important. It's not just me up here begging and pandering or whatever. If we're actually going to enter into this culture war, I need you all enlisted in this fight with me. And there's just very simple, easy asks that I'm making. You're not going to break a sweat. It's not going to cost you any money. Just need you to, join me in this fight and fighting the algorithm. Hit the likes, hit the 5-star reviews, leave a comment, help us fight the algorithm. All right, the other thing, now I am going to ask for a little money here because this is my favorite topic, Preborn, our friends at Preborn. And the mindset that we here at Fearless are adopting and trying to spread throughout all of America, and particularly throughout American men, is that life begins in the womb. Life begins at conception. And part of that mindset is supporting young women who find themselves pregnant and contemplating abortion, and what we can do. Very easy thing we can do. We can provide that young woman an ultrasound, introduce that woman to her baby's image inside the womb and the heartbeat of that baby. When that woman hears that heartbeat, sees that image, 70, 80% of the time, she's going to choose life. And then that's when Preborn's going to step in with all the support and help and materials and everything she needs to get through the pregnancy and get through the first 2 years of that baby's life. That's what Preborn supplies. They've saved more than 200,000 babies. We here at The Blaze partnered with Preborn. Those of us in this fearless army partnered with Preborn. We're going to save 50,000 babies' lives this year. We're going to do it by giving $28 to pay for one ultrasound, $140 to pay for 5 ultrasounds. Hey, you may want to donate $1,000 and pay for a bunch of ultrasounds. All the money goes to ultrasounds. It's not going to mid-level executives and their 401ks. You guys, we brought Dan Steiner on the show to talk about where the money goes. We've met Dan Steiner, great man, great organization. This is part of our adoption of a mindset. It's one of the steps we take as fearless soldiers. We give to Preborn. We support life in the womb. We know that adopting that mindset will help drive the rest of our mindset towards God and towards an outlook on life that will help this country and change this culture. So you guys know what to do. Pound 250 and say the keyword baby, or give the Jason Whitlock way, preborn.com/Jason. That's preborn.com/Jason. Your love has the power to save a life. Preborn.com/Jason. Dial pound 250, see the keyword baby. Thank you so much. All right, I want to get into this Matt Walsh situation. Matt Walsh, a very popular member of the Daily Wire team. He's done, other than Ben Shapiro, he's probably the most popular guy over at the Daily Wire ever since he did the documentary, What is a Woman? He's in the middle of this transgender fight. He understands it. He's not backing down. He and his family have faced all kinds of threats. They're trying to intimidate this man and back him down. We pray for Matt regularly here at Fearless. I hope you do as well. The fight has escalated. Under the pretense of a hack, someone has gotten access to his phone. Anyway, I'm going to read from Jeremy Boring, the CEO of the Daily Wire. Everybody took notice of this 2-3 days ago when Matt Walsh's Twitter feed started tweeting out a bunch of stuff that sounded silly and didn't sound like him, and a lot of it was inappropriate. But Jeremy Boring put out a statement last night. You may be aware that Matt Walsh had his Twitter account hacked last night. What you may not know is that the attack went well beyond Twitter. The hackers have managed to gain access to, well, everything, including 20 years of Matt's emails. The war, the culture war that we're having, the trans war that we're having, just went to the next level. It just went to the next level. I'm going to continue reading from Jeremy Boring here. This may not be on screen. What scandalous information will the hackers find in Matt's emails? I do not know. I'm sure I said things in my 20s that I wouldn't feel great having aired publicly. What will the Daily Wire's response be to things 20-year-old Matt may have said? Laugh out loud. awesome. That's exactly what they should do. Someone hacked my emails or hacked the Jason Whitlock of 20, 30 years ago. I've said all kinds of incredibly stupid things, inappropriate things. This is love with you, and I don't care what the guy said 20 years, and I'm talking about anything. I don't care. I know and I believe where Matt Walsh stands today. I love it. I love it. I support it. We're going to protect this guy at all costs. Jeremy goes on to say, this hack, as terrible and invasive as it is just another day at the office for us. Here's a brief look at just the last 48 hours. First, Matt Walsh was demonetized on YouTube for violating some opaque, arbitrarily applied standard or another related to speaking the biological truth about Dylan Mulvaney. I can't be more specific because the capriciousness is the point for these platforms. Just 24 hours later, Brett Cooper was permanently banned from TikTok. Her crime, I don't know, because its capriciousness is the point. At the exact moment Matt Walsh was being hacked by criminals, Michael Knowles was being evacuated from Pitt Tweet, I think, is that the University of Pittsburgh? Maybe, yeah, University of Pittsburgh, because of a violent riot protecting his speech in which trans activists and sundry other leftists burned Michael in effigy and tussled with police. That's just the last 48 hours, and that's in addition to all the usual death threats, harassment, corporate targeting that are daily companions of the real Daily Wire. He goes on to explain how much money this is costing the Daily Wire, and he goes on to explain how the entire system is rigged against conservative media outlets, and how we're financially punished for not adopting left-wing positions on everything. That there's a whole, you gotta go read the tweet thread, because it explains, look, tech giants like YouTube, Facebook, TikTok, and until Elon Musk wrote a check at Twitter, flagging, banning, throttling, shadow banning, and demonetizing us is a constant occurrence. We're continually fact-checked. Almost all the fact checks are removed on appeal, but not before the desired effect of stunning our reach and effectiveness and making it impossible to earn revenue. Billionaire-funded nonprofits like, I think this is Media Matters, Media Matters, pay people to post out-of-context clips of our shows and to pressure advertisers not to spend money with us. The reason I'm saying all this, it's not just the Daily Wire. This is across the board. This is what happens to Blaze Talent. This is what Steven Crowder was talking about. This is why when I start the show and I start talking about hit the likes, and fighting the algorithm, we're up against it. There is a trans war. I'm calling it a trans war, and you can hear the gender dysphoria in that. But the trans war is really about transitioning America to a satanic culture, period, end of story. It is happening right before our eyes. Right before our eyes. And many of you are just, it's gonna go back to normal. It's gonna go away. I'm just gonna sit here patiently until sanity returns. It's not going to just return. We're going to have to do something about it. And that's why when I was talking about roll call and the suggestions, the things that I want us focusing on about getting our minds right, we have to get our minds right. We have to understand our identity. And the reason why you hear me talk all the time about Matt Walsh, and I celebrate Matt Walsh like he's my co-host here at The Blaze. It's because I believe Matt Walsh, and he identifies as a Christian, he is on my team. And that's the team we all have to get on. Matt Walsh is not some white guy. Matt Walsh is not he's not even a Catholic to me, and I know that he's a Catholic. He's a Christian. He's not any of these other identities that are different from me. He's a Christian, and he's putting his beliefs and finances on the line to support biblical values. I respect the hell out of Matt Walsh, and I'm going to support him like a true teammate. And that doesn't mean everything Matt Walsh does I'm going to agree with, and I may occasionally criticize him. Hey, I had some criticisms of What is a Woman? I wish they had made God more front and center. I think now as we've gotten further down the road, they can probably understand why I had that criticism. We're in a battle of good versus evil. To some of you that are secular, soft believers, that may sound crazy, that may sound apocalyptic, that may sound like a conspiracy theory, exaggerated. You're going to find out what this is about. And when I'm going to play you this video of this transgender man, this man who thinks he's a woman, and he's telling you to your face the mentality of the other side. And then maybe you'll understand what type of war we're in. It's not just going to go away. The other side has soldiers willing to die, willing to lay their life on the line for their satanic worldview. These are not harmless people. These aren't people that, they just want to live and let live. They want to impose their worldview on the rest of us. They want to transition this country from a biblical Judeo-Christian culture and what it used to be. It's not anymore. But they're just not satisfied with a secular culture. They are going to push a satanic culture until they have it. And they're willing to die for that right and to win this transitional culture war that we're in. Let's play the clip of the trans man letting you know what lengths he's willing to go to see his worldview prevail.
If you back a wild animal into a corner, they're going to become a dangerous animal. So if you want to die on that hill of yours of righteousness and moral majority, then you go right ahead. I dare you to try and stop me from going into a women's bathroom. It will be the last mistake you ever make. I dare you to try and stop a transgender woman in my presence from using the bathroom. It will be the last mistake you ever make. This is a call to action and a call to arms to everybody within the United States that are scared, worried, have children that are transgender, lesbian, bi, or gay. This is a call to action. You need to arm up. Plain and simple. Go out, buy a gun, learn how to use it efficiently, through and through, because the time to act is now. You need to protect yourself, and you need to protect your fellow transgender brothers and sisters and theys and thems. You need to protect the rest of us in the LGBT community, as I'm going to do myself, because there are lots of people like me who are not afraid to die. I love my girlfriends to death, but I would rather die for them to secure their safety, freedom, and future than to live and not have anything done. So you go ahead. You protect your kids from me using the bathroom. You've been warned.
He's not saying anything new. He's just saying the quiet part out loud. That mentality is at the heart of Black Lives Matter. That mentality is at the heart of Antifa. I've told you all for years, from the inception of Black Lives Matter, this was nothing to do with black people. This was always the LGBTQ movement. And when those three black Marxist lesbians founded Black Lives Matter, and a lot of you all went for the okie doke and went for the BS, I was saying as loudly as I could, this ain't black, this is gay, this is LGBTQ, this is silent P. pedophilia. That's what it is. And you can live in denial and, oh, I got a gay friend and they're not like that. And I'm not saying they all are. But that movement has been hijacked by guys like that who want to overturn 250 some odd years of tradition and history and 6,000 years of biblical wisdom. Because that man feels like a woman. We're going to upset and turn over the whole thing because there's some people that have sticks and balls who feel like a woman. Or there's some women with vaginas who wish they had sticks and balls. Now, I'm sorry, I feel sorry for them. Thank God it's not me, but we're not overturning all of this for them. More than happy to help them get the counseling and the mental health care that they need. But that man in a bathroom with your daughter, if you're a coward and don't want to do anything about that man being in a bathroom, in a shower, competing against your daughter, they got a special place in hell for you. Special place. If that doesn't provoke you, if this is the world you want to leave your kids and your grandkids, where that man, Richard Levine, and that's not Richard Levine or Rachel Levine or whatever he's calling himself, but that's his kindred spirit. That's his brother from another mother. I don't dislike these people, but it's not their country to run. And they have armed up. They've been armed up at these Black Lives Matter riots and looting. They've been armed up at these overtaking of these Chaz cities through Antifa. It's always the lunatic, gender dysphoric people at the heart of that. And they're willing and ready and anticipating doing violence so that their worldview will prevail. We got to get our minds right, and we got to prepare for what's coming. This will not be easy. TJ Moe, welcome to the show. What's going on here with the Daily Wire and Matt Walsh? I think it's a chilling effect for the rest of the media, and it speaks to why so many people in the media that know better sit quietly and do nothing and just say, because they're scared and they don't have any type of real relationship with God, and so they're afraid of death, and they just want things to be easy, and so they know this is wrong, but they're going to say nothing. And I would imagine there's some conservative people and liberal people and other that look at what's happening to Matt Walsh and say, I'll do anything to have that not happen to me. And so they're just going to they're going to roll through a lot of people, but not me and not what we're doing here at Fearless.
Yeah, it's a short-sighted approach, self-preservation in the short term, particularly when there is a catastrophic threat that is hanging over the top of you. You may preserve yourself, but your kids and your kids' kids and your kids' kids' kids in America is going down the tubes. I can't get in that mindset. Anybody with faith, I don't know how you get in that mindset of just allowing things to happen. America was literally founded on the opposite. It was founded on, we will die for this freedom, for our religious freedom, for our ability to govern ourselves. Everybody talks about taxation without representation. Today, when was the last time you saw somebody? There was a time where I think people in the old days, there were almost riots over a 2% tax rate. Now we're at darn near 50%. Like, Americans don't fight for anything today. It doesn't. The government's in charge of everything. And so we just take it because, well, our life is pretty good. And yeah, America's the highest standard of living of all time. We're good. Just let the government take over. And the more money and the more power and the more influence you give to that government, the less freedom you have, and you are sabotaging your own children. And if you can't think of it that way, I can't help you. If you don't love your kids enough to say, I am willing to sacrifice myself and my reputation and our short-term well-being, even within this family, for your future, I can't help you. And look, it's biblical. You go through Psalm 146:3 says, do not put your trust in princes or human beings who cannot save you. Don't put your trust in the government. They can't save you. Don't put your trust in these corporations. They can't save you. Psalm 118:8 says, it is better to trust in the Lord than put confidence in man. These men can't save you. Even Matt Walsh. Matt Walsh can't save us. You better jump in this fight and save yourself. I love Matt Walsh. You know, he's up there with the highest score I've ever given in approval rating history. But I'm telling you, Matt Walsh can't save me. And I know this. Matt Walsh is trying to save himself and his kids, but I promise that's not a big enough army. And there is an army of people, like we just saw that dude who thinks he's a woman who says, I will kill you if you don't let me go into the bathroom that I want. And so there's a lot of those people. I mean, that's a demonstration of mental illness. And if you're too cowardly to step in the way, I can't help you.
I've been saying, and people have heard me on this show say it 1,000 times, that pedophilia is next, and that same guy, there will be a version of him. There will be a version of him that will be speaking out for pedophiles very soon, and I just don't know how anybody can be a father or a mother and think that their 6, 7, 8, 9, 10-year-old kid should be put in a position where they could be sexually exploited by an adult, and we're supposed to be good with it because, oh, that's a minor attracted person. That is where we're headed. I've argued with people that, it won't be that, it won't be this, it won't, and I don't think those same people. I would call out someone prominent that I absolutely love, and me and this person had a big argument about that, and they got very uncomfortable when I kept talking about the pedophile thing and being next. I guarantee you that person knows I'm right today. This was probably a year ago. We had an argument in public about it, and I was trying to. This is where it's headed, and it's no different. I'm not demonizing the LGBTQ or the LGBT or whatever, but if you keep normalizing things that aren't normal, they're going to keep normalizing non-normal things. It's never going to stop. And people will be marrying dogs if we don't stop this. Mm-hmm. And they'll be sleeping with dogs out in front of everybody. And it sounds crazy, but that's what happens when there are no lines. And there has to be lines. And that's where I keep saying with this whole feminized culture where women just want to get along and they just want everybody to be happy. And I love that about them. But you can't run a society that way. It just can't be. And so we gotta, and I'm glad we did roll call and we're gonna continue on, but we gotta have a real revival, a nationwide revival, just to wake people up, man, to the truth. And I know I'm just, but this thing just bothers me to know because I despite what's going on with Matt Walsh, I'm still fearful some people don't realize just how far this thing has gone and will continue to go.
Yeah, we have to have an objective morality that we can agree on. If we can't, this is the battle we fight. Now, Ben Shapiro actually gave a great breakdown of, how normalization works. If you got a vegan, a vegetarian, a girl in your family who she comes to a dinner with, just your regular dinner. Well, sorry, I'm not going to eat meat. And so does your mom want to make 2 meals, or does she just want to make a meal without meat? Well, now everybody's a vegetarian. And then you go to the party and you say, I'm sorry, my daughter doesn't eat meat. And then does everybody at the party want to make a whole separate group for your daughter, or is now everybody at the party a vegetarian? And that's how you go. The bigger you go, and you're like, look, I can't do all this extra work. And so pretty soon, one person has changed 500 people, 1,000 people in what they're allowed to do. And that's what this LGBT thing is. Everybody now has to put up with these special preferences of singular people. And we act like it's a huge group of these people, but it's not. It's a tiny fraction. Before everybody went insane, it was 0.4% of the population. And now we've got dudes. That guy looked big. That guy's got 6'2", 260 pounds. That's a big dude. I do want to point out, can I just point out, that was not very ladylike of him to jump in there and say he was going to kill someone for going into the bathroom. If you're trying to be a lady, perhaps you're not threatening someone's life. And how about the idea that he's calling for this is a call to arms? Remember Lori Lightfoot did that not too long ago? And as long as you're in the alphabet mafia, a call to arms is totally fine. But if Donald Trump on January 6th says we're peacefully marching down to the Capitol, well, that's a real call to arms, and we got to put a stop to this. And now we have a January 6th committee. And so it's just, this is the normalization. We make excuses for everything that they do. This is what you feel comfortable as a guy like that. You feel comfortable because no one has the balls to step out and say, this dude's mentally insane. He needs to be institutionalized. And if he kills someone, that's on your hands. I've gone back and forth on this because I'm reluctant to take guns from anyone. But these are mentally ill people. Should these LGBT people have guns? We know they're mentally ill. It's forever. The DSM-4, DSM-5, we said they're mentally ill. And so now society has moved and we're like, well, no, it's actually totally normal to be trapped in the wrong body. In fact, it's 20% of the population. Now they're mentally ill. And do we really want them to have guns? And again, who gets to decide that? That's sticky. I would lean on the side of give them a gun, give me my gun, and we'll see how it works out for them and their mental illness. But I'm just telling you, we're in dicey territory with these people who we have enabled to feel this way, and that our microaggressions of giving them the wrong look is worth a macroaggression of them murdering us.
TJ, we were in a conversation yesterday at the end of our prayer call with someone in our group who's, high-end tech executive, and he was helping us understand and really confirming something that I believe, but it was always, reluctant to say out loud. But since he brought it to the table, I was like, oh, this is awesome. Is they're calling this a hack of what went on with Matt Walsh. And our friend was saying, nah, this is a leak. There is no such thing really as a hack. This is alphabet institutions, FBI, CIA, leaking information. This is whoever's in control, the puppet masters of the military-industrial complex and the surveillance community. It's like, oh, we want to put Matt Walsh down, so let's leak his information to someone who will misuse it and try to embarrass the guy. That's kind of where I believe, this whole thing of cybersecurity and make sure you got a strong password and two-party authentication and all that other stuff. If they want to out you because they have us attached to these phones and they have us putting all of our information on a phone, they can always get you. And this all attaches to why I'm saying, gentlemen, we got some sacrifices we got to make. We have to live righteously, or they're going to use our sin to silence us. And so I know that many of you guys out there, you love your porn. You like your little side piece. You like a lot of things that you're just not supposed to have. It's going to cost your kids their freedom and the America that you want to leave them. And we can't protect them if we're not willing to live a righteous life. because trust me, they know all of our secrets, all of them. It's in our phones, it's on our web browsers, it's on our laptops, it's on our iPads, and they have access to all of it, and at any time. And again, I'm not expecting anything really bad coming out of this Matt Walsh leak. But the reason why so many of you are petrified and won't stand up is because you're living fear. Like, oh boy, if they hack me or leak my information, I'm toast. My marriage is destroyed. My position at the church is destroyed. Could cost me my job. You got to come up out of the wickedness and confess the wickedness. Come up out of it. Don't be ashamed of it, because trust me, there's nothing you've done heterosexual that I haven't done. There's nothing you've done that God won't forgive, and that includes anything and everything. So that conversation last night really confirmed in my mind where we're at and why it's such a treacherous situation and why it's time you got to get right with God.
Yeah, I think that's absolutely right. And, it's so our friend told us what it likely was. Matt Walsh actually came out and confirmed that. He said, look, somebody at the company, we don't know who, a rogue employee or whatever, actually gave this hacker a SIM card with access to my phone, and he created a clone phone. So he didn't even need to get his phone. He didn't even need to hack into the phone. All he did was put in a new SIM card, and now he got all the text messages, and as he said, forgot password. He got all the two-factor authentication. Everything that he needed was sent right to the phone. And the guy was even taunting Matt by taking a picture of the phone and showing him that he had it and posting it on Twitter. And so this is why, how many times have we talked about a parallel economy? This is why we have to align with people who have our values and create our own stuff. There's a bank that is in the works. It's I was reading it today. It's a group of billionaires who are just tired of the Bank of Americas and all these other woke banks paying for abortions, and they're giving $4,000 to their employees to fly to California and get an abortion, and they're taking my money to do that, all the interest on my money, and so they're naming it Pro-Life Bank. And they're like, we're starting something new. We're not doing this anymore. And we have to create this parallel economy for people that have our values so that there's not some rogue Alphabet employee in there that says, oh, this guy's pro-life. He's worth ruining his life. Just that one stance, we're going to ruin his life. And here's all these hackers don't even have to hack in. And so that's it. It is a mandate, and many of our top people, you look around, there are a lot of people who have a ton of money who profess to be Christians. What are they doing? Why haven't you started these things? Why haven't we at least heard about them? Why haven't we done crowdfunding? I'll pitch in some money to start something. I don't need any ownership. I just need somewhere else to go. So why not somebody who's got a couple $1 billion say, hey, this Amazon thing's not working. Let's try to start our own. It's going to have its glitches. Why isn't there a bank version and
I'm gonna tell you why. Take Robert Kraft, billionaire, was a friend of Trump's, but he's so trapped by his sin, and he, where'd they bust him at? A massage parlor. I've been to massage parlors. That embarrassed him, and it lets you know how he gets down, and he doesn't. If a billionaire is hitting up massage parlors and not bringing the massage parlors to his own house, if he's hitting them up randomly and regularly, trust me, there's a lot more sin there that he doesn't want to cop to, doesn't want to confess to, doesn't want to be rid of. He wants to continue on in that vein. And so he's locked in, and that's why he runs around. He wants to be best friends with Meek Mill. That's why he's on stage dancing with Cardi B. He likes that life. He doesn't want to give it up, and so he can't stand on his true values. He has to give in to his sinful nature and keep his mouth shut and keep his head down and just hope that, oh, I got busted, it'll go away, and let me stay out of this. I can't stand for anything because I refuse to clean up my life and get right with God. And there's a lot of guys like that. I only be speculation, but I think Jerry Jones shares a lot of our values. Is he willing to clean up his life so that he can stand on those values? That's the issue. And it is tough, particularly when you've been out in that world, it is tough to clean yourself up and unnormalize things that had been normal, unnormalize things that had been normal, and give it into your flesh and pleasure and all that. It's hard. But if Jerry Jones, Robert Kraft, any of these billionaires, if they seriously want to clean up America, they're gonna have to come up out of that so they can stand on these values that they truly believe in, but just aren't man enough right now to do the things necessary so they can stand on it.
Just takes one. It's the Ash conformity experiment. If you don't know what it is, look it up. It takes one person to get everybody else to step out. And so you're doing this for a lot of people. How many guys walked up at roll call and were like, hey man, you cleaned up your life, I'm cleaning up mine too. It takes one person who's willing to lose things to step out. And now suddenly, are you going to oust 40% of the NFL of guys who agree but haven't lived perfect lives? Are you going to oust 70% of the NBA? Right? It's like you can get these guys on, well, he said the N-word one time, so we're going to remove him from the board of governors because we're not even comfortable calling ourselves owners, even though we own the team. That group of people, largely, they're in the generation. That's a group of 70-year-olds. That generation grew up as Christians. And so, look, I'm nervous about my generation. When I'm giving these talks, when we're 50, 60, 70 years old for me, I'm not convinced that these people have been taught my values. I'm convinced these owners grew up with my values because that's what America was back then. So these guys all had it in them. So you can look around. When I go into a room of 70-year-olds, I assume they agree with me. When I go into a room of 20-year-olds, I assume they're retarded, right? And hopefully they grow up. They've not been given good values. We've moved away. And so this group, just somebody step out. Robert Kraft, maybe it's you. Say, maybe I've done some really dumb things, and I certainly have. And yet, I still don't believe we should murder babies. Those two things don't seem connected to me. But if you want to oust me because I don't think you should murder babies, then, have at it. I think I'll be okay. And there's a group of other guys that also believe that who aren't willing to stay out. But one guy's got to do it. And then the next comes, and then the next.
They got to do it by I am trying to show you how to do it. I've told you I was involved in an abortion. I've talked about it on this show. I was. You're going to have to cop to it because, again, they can't take that pro-life stance because they're sitting there saying, oh, there's 5 women I've signed an NDA with, gave them a couple $100,000 to make the baby go away. And guys, I'm telling you, you can be forgiven. Cop to it. Admit it. Yep, that was me. I regret it. It was horrible. Mm-hmm. Cop to it. It's better than the reverse, doing nothing, saying nothing, living with it, living with the guilt of it, and letting this country go to hell in a handbasket. TJ, I gotta go. This is gonna be a long show. I was hoping to, so you guys buckle up, keep hitting that like button, keep pounding the 5-star reviews on Apple. It's gonna be a long little marathon show. I apologize. We may go 2 hours here, but I just went 15, 20 minutes longer with TJ than I planned on. But this topic's too important. And we gotta flush this out, and I gotta explain it to you, and I gotta explain it to myself. All of the conversations are just helping me think this through, and what we need to do here at Fearless, and what we need to do as men, and just anyway, we're gonna have a great show. It's gonna be a little long. Stick with me. It's gonna be worth it. Hey, the other thing you can do is go check out my man Steve Deace's new movie, Nefarious. I've seen it already. You've heard me talk about it. It's a very good movie. I don't like most movies. I fall asleep or leave most movies. Did not happen with Nefarious. It's a great little thriller about a man on death row and a psychiatrist who comes in to interview him and find out if the man is sane enough to accept that death penalty and be put to death. I'm not going to blow it for you, but this is a movie about demons and just a dark mindset. It's a little bit supernatural. It's a supernatural thriller. Go to, if you want tickets and find out where it's playing at, whoisnefarious.com. That's whoisnefarious.com. Virgil Walker, next. All right, welcome back. Let's bring in Virgil Walker from G3 Ministries to help unpack a little bit more of this Matt Walsh conversation. Then I got a couple other things I want to talk, or at least one other thing I want to talk with Virgil about. Virgil, did you see the video we played with TJ Moe of the transgender man saying that he was willing to turn violent if someone stopped him from going to the bathroom he wants?
Yes, I did. It was unbelievable to see it, but not at the same time, not at all surprising. It was a couple of nights ago that Jason, that I recall on a Tucker Carlson episode, I think it was, where he covered the fact that NPR radio had a particular article or some story that they were covering, where more and more people who had embraced transgenderism were actually arming up. They were beginning to go to shooting ranges, gun ranges, and learning how to shoot. And all of this was in an effort to, not simply defend themselves, but to push forward their agenda. It was a we're not going to take it anymore kind of approach to their particular worldview. That was, I want to say it was a few nights ago.
So that leads me to this question. Is a violent conflict inevitable between evangelicals and the transgender LGBTQ crowd?
Yeah, violent conflict, I would say, given the size and scope of the population of those who are in the transgender community, I'd say that's doubtful. However, I do believe that violence is an option for any worldview that is godless. Any godless ideology, any ideology that has embraced the idea that there is no God and that they can determine their sex and or gender on the basis of how they feel during the course of the day, they've bowed the knee to the altar of feelings and emotion. Anybody who's done that, one, we automatically recognize that there's a mental issue there, that there are mental issues that need to be addressed there. But secondarily, they can justify violent behavior because of the way that they think about life. I mean, we witnessed that in Tennessee just weeks ago. We witnessed this transgender individual going into a Christian school and shooting up kids and adults. But the justification was simply that that they didn't want to feel attacked anymore. And then you had a media complex that followed that same storyline to validate, the acting out of this transgender individual simply because, they are oppressed, or shouldn't we expect that kind of behavior? And you saw that in the video that you played earlier. The individual, oversized male, pretending to be a woman, he starts his conversation by saying, if you push an animal in the back of a room, that animal will eventually lash out. Well, let's pump the brakes. We are not animals. We are human beings created in the image of God that have an ability to think, have ability to respond in respectful ways. Issues when confronted can logically process things. So no, we're not animals. But when you have a godless worldview, you view yourself in any facet or form that's to your advantage when you lash out and do behavior like this, at violent behavior. To directly answer your question, I don't believe a violent conflict is on the mount, but I do believe that we will indeed see more and more of those who are in the transgender movement, more and more of those who hold a transgender ideology, validating acts of violence, justifying acts of violence in the name of their agenda.
And so I think the transgender movement is attached to the pedophilia movement. And, from Epstein Island to, I'm someone that believes there is a cabal or a coalition of people that I don't believe in child sex. And I'm just wondering, as a Christian, what does the Bible say? When is it justifiable to say, you know what, no, I can't go there, and by any means necessary, I'm going to put a stop to this.
Yeah.
And if I got to do it with a musket, again, if they're going to try to normalize, legalize pedophilia, for me, I don't know if I'm biblically sound here, but that's worth grabbing a musket and putting people down if they want to try to legalize pedophilia, and I believe that's where this is headed.
Yeah, I don't disagree with you. I think that is where this is headed. If you notice, maybe a few days ago, maybe a week ago, the UN made a move to minimize or to decriminalize age of consent. There was a statement that was made by the UN that is trying to dial back any kind of legal action that countries around the world take as it relates to an age of consent. So that's already out there. So as you're talking about this, and your thought is, well, there's a cabal that's after our kids. Well, I think they're out in the open now. We've already witnessed a deconstruction of language from pedophilia to minor attracted persons. And so this is out in the open, and anyone who isn't seeing it, they're absolutely, their eyes are closed. All of this, Jason, is absolutely an assault on Christian faith, on the Judeo-Christian worldview. But even further than that, it actually represents a direct onslaught against God's created order. We have to begin thinking about these things, and we can't sit idly by waiting for the next thing to drop, waiting for the next thing to happen. I do think we have a responsibility to protect our families and as a result to ensure that they're not in harm's way. I'm not advocating, Christian men race to the next Target, store and wait for someone who's transgender to enter and start shooting. We wouldn't want that kind of thing at all to happen. And we've got to recognize that the weapons of our warfare are very different than those of others. Scripture is clear on that. I think we do things like what you're doing. We shine a spotlight on this crazy, chaotic world in which we live, and recognize that the answer and the solution is indeed the gospel proclamation, but it is also a prophetic voice. It is imperative that we sound the alarm loud and far that this is crazy and that it's happening. And right now, as it stands, there are laws on the books to fight against it. Christians are going to have to be active at church, in the public square, and in spaces and places that matter for the purpose of protecting that which matters.
So you talked about, I think you used the word insanity, and we're living in an insane time. Stephen Wolfe wrote a book, The Case for Christian Nationalism. He put out a tweet in the last 24, 48 hours saying white evangelicals are the lone bulwark against the moral insanity hurting America. I think the tweet bothered you more than it did me, but I'll let you fire first. What did you think of Stephen Wolfe's tweet?
Yeah, the thing is, I've read Stephen Wolfe's book. I've covered it from cover to cover. I know kind of what he's saying and where this is going. And I'll admit, perhaps my response was a bit knee jerk in its inception. And here's the reason why. Jason, for the last 3 to 5 years, myself, men like Vodi Bakum, partners like my buddy Daryl Harrison, all black men have fought vociferously against the left and their ideological framework that looks at whiteness as sinful. That's all we heard for the last 5 years. And Vodi, there are others. Like I said, my partner Daryl Harrison, myself, black guys who are in evangelical circles who are taking on I mean, we're on the front lines of this social justice battle. And we're saying anyone who's making the claim that whiteness is sinful, you're wrong, but B, you're not even proclaiming Christian faith, Christian values. So here we were, not many white evangelicals at first when the social justice thing hit were saying much of anything. They were consulting, trying to figure out what was going on, trying to identify what was happening. We were there saying what we were saying, and there wasn't a whole lot of white evangelicals. They were primarily trying to figure things out as we took on the front edge of a battle. And then for me, only to look to my right and to see someone make the claim that, and at the time, neither myself or any of the people that I've mentioned are touting the fact that, hey, there's only a handful of black men who are saying it. We could care less about the color of our skin. We were more concerned about right and wrong. We were more concerned about what was evil, what was sinful, and what needed to be done about it. Only in my mind to turn to my right and then to see the idea that white evangelicals are the lone bulwark against moral insanity. And I'm thinking, what does their whiteness have to do with standing against that which is right or wrong? Furthermore, when you make statements like the lone bulwark, what that says is that guys like me aren't needed, aren't necessary. Now, further down, again, and again, in fairness to Wolf, I recognize that what he's talking about is a voting block of white evangelicals, and that Christian conservatives, white Christian conservatives particularly, have stood against issues like abortion, or have stood against issues, other moral issues, and that they've been a framework for against the decay. Unfortunately, his initial tweet did not clarify that, and what it put to the fore was the color of the skin of the individual, and the color of their skin had nothing to do with what they stood for. If anything in that sentence mattered, it was the evangelicalism that informed their worldview by which they stood to begin with. Stephen Wolf would have been wiser to say something along the lines of evangelicals, particularly those who happen to be white, have been a bulwark against the moral insanity and decay of the culture. That would have been fair, because that language is inclusive. That language would have included me, even though it said evangelicals. When it said evangelicals, I'm one of those. Who happen to be white, I'm not one of those, but I'm in part of the evangelical culture standing against the insanity of the culture. And so one of the things that was a portion of my problem. One, the language that he used was absolutely muddied. It was not an inclusive statement. It was an exclusive statement. I recognize and again, to his defense, his claim was, well, I'm simply talking about a voting block. Well, it would have been fine to say 80%, 90% of white evangelicals have voted for this, and this. That's a statement about a voting block. This, on the other hand, alongside a Norman Rockwell painting, that points to a different era and time in our country, communicates a very different kind of thing. And so I say all of that to say, again, perhaps my response was a bit knee-jerk, but at the same time, it wasn't. I think it was merited for us to have to continue the conversation. Last thing I'll say about that is this: there's a deeper conversation about this issue of Christian nationalism that we're going to be participating in. Those of us who are at G3, are going to be participating in over the course of the next few weeks and months as we move forward. And it's going to be a very interesting conversation. I won't get ahead of leadership here at G3, but I will tell you this: there's a lot to be thought through with regard to the issue of Christian nationalism. Initially, Jason, When the charge of Christian nationalism was put forward, it was simply a charge by those who didn't like Christianity, who didn't like the Judeo-Christian worldview. They would lump everything together. And when they said Christian nationalists, what they always meant was white Christian nationalists. So it was an effort to just shut down the conversation. That's what was initially that's what initially happened. Right now, there are some who are trying to reclaim that language and are trying to repackage it in a way that they feel like would be to their advantage, both politically, theologically, and otherwise. And before we in evangelicalism embrace this idea, it's critical that we pump the brakes and look at definitions, particularly the definition of nationalism. And nationalism has always required separatism, right? It's always required separatism, whether it's cultural, ethnic, racial, however you divide those. And if we're going to separate, I want to know where the lines are drawn. And then I want to know how you're going to implement these kinds of things that you're positing. There's a lot of questions to be asked and answered in this framework. And I will tell you over the course of the next weeks and months, we're going to do a deeper dive into those things.
So I was going to ask you about his book and that topic. And I was going to ask it probably this way, that looking at his tweet, did you package it up with his book and the fact that you guys are evaluating this issue right now so extensively and thoroughly? And so the tweet wasn't just standing out there alone. It had the baggage of the book and this whole conversation you're having, because I would just say, when I read his tweet, I wasn't offended. I was concerned. He was saying out loud something that I feel. Like, where are the black evangelicals on this moral insanity that's going on in America? When I see Raphael Warnock calling himself a pro-choice pastor, I'm like, this dude's not an evangelical. He's a politician masquerading as a religious person, as a Christian, and I see too much of the black church selling out God and the Bible for political power and gain, and so I saw his tweet. I'm not offended. It just elevates my concern. This man's seeing the same thing I'm seeing. I'm looking around at the black church like, y'all reading the same Bible as me? We're locked in on these positions. We're locked in on same-sex marriage. We're locked in on the transgender issue. We're locked in on pro-life, pro-choice issue. Who are we? And what the guy saying is like, no, white evangelicals appear to be, with their actions, standing on biblical values. And he can't go where I would go probably, or just because I think in 1950, 1960, if there was Twitter around, we would have been tweeting out, black evangelicals are the lone bulwark standing against this moral insanity that's going on in America, and no one would be offended. Everybody say, yeah, it looks like the black church, man, they got it together. You know, that and right now, it doesn't look like we got it together. It looks like we're a political group more than an evangelical group.
Right. No, I totally appreciate what you're saying. And I to answer the first part of your question, I have a little bit more framework for why I responded in the way that I did. Absolutely. I've read the book. I understand where this is kind of going. I've done some evaluative research on nationalism and looked at its damaging impact on every nation and group that has tried it. I'm going to be writing a piece where I go into greater detail about that. So I won't start that here. But what I will say is, Jason, like you and me, we've been critical of the black church. So this is not an instance where a white guy can't say something positive about white people or he's deemed a racist. That's not at all the case. Furthermore, I've said you could probably find more of my writing that is critical of the black church. than you can anything positive. One of the first things I wrote was a letter to black pastors. One of the first reasons why you pulled me on the show was to talk about this letter where we addressed those very same concerns that you just raised. So this is not someone who's pro-black who can't stand to see something said about some white guy. I fought against the notion that whiteness is inherently sinful. I fought against that for the last 4 or 5 years. I've stood on every platform that I could to take that stigma away and go, that's not all the case. There's nothing wrong with being white in the same way that there's nothing wrong with being black. Sinfulness has nothing to do with skin, with one's skin color. In the same way that sin has no part of skin color, righteousness does not either. And so if we begin to use language that seems to reflect that, white evangelicals are the lone bulwark against immorality or sin against for moralism. What about their skin color had anything to do with it? If we're simply identifying a group, I'd simply say this and giving him the benefit of the doubt. If the goal was to simply identify a particular voting bloc, there's nothing wrong with that. I simply think that the language under it or around it could have been more clearly stated, and none of us would have had the kinds of Twitter exchanges that we've had over the last 24 to 48 hours after this thing presented itself.
But can we not diagnose that? Doesn't sickle cell run more rampant among black people? And so I think it's important that people know that about sickle cell, and that doctors know that, so that someone comes in, they know, oh, well, let's check for sickle cell and blah, blah, blah. And right now, I think it's important that we understand that something's going on in the culture that is turning black alleged evangelicals against the word of God. And so I think it's important to know that. And this whole show is about trying to educate people on, like, hey, look, there's a group of people playing a game with your mind, and they're twisting the Bible and racializing the Bible and making you think, well, the only thing I'm really interested in the Bible are the handful of things that, I can use to fight for racial justice. And all this other stuff, abortion, gay marriage, any of that, that's all fungible, and toss it out, and that's a reflection of white male patriarchal, blah, blah, blah. And so I do think there's a particular, lack of better description, disease running through the black church, racial idolatry, that is making us bow on all of these highly important biblical issues and biblical views, and we look weak. And again, we're seeing constant videos of unparented, unfathered kids doing all kinds of insanity and craziness, and we're just hoping it's going to go away, rather than having real conversations saying, like, hey, fatherlessness is running rampant among us, and we shouldn't be shocked that our kids are jumping on people, interracial couples in Chicago, and looting Walmarts and things like that. These kids are fatherless, and this is what goes along. This has nothing to do with your skin color. This has to do with the destruction of family. And so we as black people, we gotta turn back to family and God if we wanna correct this. There's nothing wrong with our skin color. There's nothing about our skin color that makes us do these things, other than the mind game that culture has played on people of a certain skin color to make them abandon and what just drives me crazy is just like, if they ever write a new Bible, we're gonna be the stars of it. We're gonna be look at what these people overcame by sticking with God. And then once they got almost to the promised land and got the equality they were looking for in the greatest land ever made, then they turned against God, and now look.
Yeah, yeah,
it's,
yeah.
gonna- it's mind blowing to me.
No, it is. Jason, you're not going to get pushback from me on any of that related to Black culture, what we're seeing in the Black community, what we're seeing in the streets of Chicago. I'm writing about this stuff. You and I have talked about it. You talk about it on this show. I'm connected with with everything that's happening at Fearless because I want to have that conversation. I want to tell Black folks and Black churches, you got to turn back to God. But as we do, and as I have efforted to push Blacks away from racial idolatry, I don't want to push them away from that, only to then turn and see racial idolatry embraced as that quote unquote race follows whiteness. Again, I'm not looking at the tweet simply on face value. I know that step 2, 3, 4, and 5 that's about to take place. And as a result, I'm cautioning. I'm simply saying, before we see the tweet as benign and say, it's not that. Yeah, that's right. We pump the brakes and make sure that what we're connecting to is a description. Hey, white evangelicals is simply a description and not a direction. We're not following white evangelicals. We're following Christ and Him crucified. We're following the Bible. We've got to get back, not to leaving this to follow whites. We've got to follow Christ. We've got to follow the Bible. We've got to follow God. It's not the whiteness. It's the evangelical, the good news of what they're sharing, of what's being shared in that framework that should inform us. And again, there's nothing wrong with any critique. Any critique that I'm going to give, I'm going to tell, hey, Blacks, and I'll identify not all Blacks, but the Black church. And again, it's an idea of what's known, of what people know and understand. But what I won't say is where I find something good or right, it has nothing to do with their ethnicity, in the same way that what's wrong has little to do with the color of their skin and everything to do with a cultural component that they're embracing that needs to be let go of. And what they need to hold on to is not white or Black or red or brown or yellow. What they need to hold on to is Christ and Him crucified alone. And that has to be made clear. Yes, we need to do battle, but how we do battle is critically important as well. And if we just link up and follow a direction because it sounds right, that can be problematic. What we need to be more concerned with is it right?
Thank you, Virgil. Great job as always. Appreciate it. Make sure you guys are hitting the likes. Make sure you're hitting the notifications, you're subscribing. If you're listening on Apple, give me the 5-star review. Write a little review in there. Tell us how good we're doing or how bad we're doing. I love to read it all. Shamika Michelle, next. All right, welcome back. Let's roll out to North Carolina, bring in Shamika Michelle. Shamika's gonna, I don't want to call it Make It Make Sense because this isn't Make It Make Sense, but I do want to know what is going on with Jonathan Majors. I don't know, Shamika, if you follow football close enough, but this is starting to remind me of Deshaun Watson, the NFL quarterback that was in, had all these problems with masseuses and ended up with 25, 30 allegations. And now Jonathan Majors, bright young star in Hollywood. I don't think you don't like the way he pierces his lips. But anyway, he was supposed to be the next big thing, the next Denzel Washington, the next Wesley Snipes, the next whatever. And now he's got these assault allegations, domestic violence allegations or problems, and he's losing all of his sponsors. His business partners are walking away from him, and there are reports that there will be even more people, more women making allegations against him. Do you think Jonathan Majors can survive this onslaught of bad publicity and perhaps bad behavior?
It's getting hot in here. I mean, they have turned up the heat on this brother. But yes, Jason, I do think he can still survive. To me, he is still innocent until proven guilty. But listen, even if he did it, I would say it's because he is gay and angry. And the Black community is not very accepting. We're very judgmental. It would have made him very hard to come out of the closet. And with his rising star in Hollywood and being promoted and pushed as this, buff actor who is the ladies' man, who is just good looking, he really didn't know how to come out and be true to himself. And so it made him really, really angry. And, he just didn't know how to deal with those emotions. I just gave him an out. Listen, this is what he's going to have to do in order, I think, to save his career. I pledge allegiance to the flag without the L. And it's sad, but that's what's about to happen. This is buck breaking in real time. I just don't know what he's going to do unless he really has a strong faith in God, because if God be for you, who can be against you? If he did this and he wants to hold on to his career, I don't see any other way out for him. I really don't.
And so if he, we were talking this morning, y'all mentioned some actor, somebody maybe?
Ezra Miller.
Pledged Ezra Miller. He got jammed up and came out or survived because he's alternative?
Well, yeah, they've been speculating that he's alternative and that he made some type of allegiance. In April of 2022, I think it was, he got into some type of altercation with a young woman, or he got upset, threw a chair, and it left a 1/2-inch gash in her forehead. And then some months after that, he was, arrested for stealing alcohol. And so people are saying that he saved his career by kind of walking that fine line and making some type of allegiance, like, I'm not necessarily this evil, straight white man. And so people are saying in order for Jonathan Majors to do that, he's going to have to bend a little bit. And I think it'll be believable, especially the way he purses those lips.
I'm going to move on before I get myself in trouble. I don't mind you getting in trouble, but I got to stay out of trouble. Little clarity about what went on in Chicago. That we played the video. I think, do we have the clip of the woman getting beat up or apparently can we start there, Justin? And no, we don't have the video. We showed it to you earlier in the week. Woman, a bunch of little teenage black kids appeared to be beating up a young white woman. Come to find out, they were beating up her and her black boyfriend. I think we have a clip here of the couple explaining the details. Let's play that.
Just downtown in Chicago, trying to shop, trying to get some food. And we were walking down the street, and there was a really big group of guys, a really big group of people.
And girls.
Yeah, guys and girls. And, DJ had my hand, and he was trying to lead me through the crowd of people. And they pushed him, they pushed me. And as soon as they pushed me, I told DJ, I said, hey, they just shoved me. And he asked them, he was like, yo, don't shove her, who shoved her? And as soon as he said that, everything went crazy. They said they're gonna kill us. They turned around and, started fighting,
So sorry
I got pushed down to the ground, and Yeah, I got pushed down to the ground, and the whole group of people went to DJ, not me. Like, I have a lot less injuries than he does because I was more of a bystander than anything, but everyone went for him, and it ended up in the middle of the street. They were jumping him in the middle of the street. It got pretty bad.
So, if this had happened when I was a kid, and it would have been a group of white kids beating up an interracial couple, and we would have called it racism, and everybody would be outraged. And so this to me speaks to just how upside down things have gone, that the racists, they're us. I'm just, they're us. And I just, and maybe I'm not, maybe my Twitter feed is rigged a different way. I just don't see stories like this where interracial couples are getting jumped and beat up by white people or white kids. We've turned this whole thing upside down. That it's like, we're the KKK. And I've been saying that for years. Anyway, your thoughts?
Yeah, Jason, you said a few months ago that Black people don't want to eradicate racism. They just want to be the ones, doing it all and be the superior ones on top. And that's exactly what we're seeing here. First, I would also like to point out, Jason, that this man wanted peace so bad, he went and got him a 3. So it speaks volumes that, men are tired of foolishness. But yes, I think it was really sad. He was doing what we tell men to do. Instead of his woman, kind of trying to fuss them out, she told him, or he witnessed what they were doing to her, and he really tried to defend her and keep her safe. And this is what happened to him because of it. And they're speculating that this is the end of these kids coming out. They're expecting them to do the same thing this coming weekend. And it really shows what we've been talking about on this show. What are the parents doing? Because this starts at home. Are you asking your children, where are they going? Why are they out at night? What are they doing? You're just letting them run rogue through the city. And then the moment they are shot or harmed, all of a sudden it's racism. No, this isn't racism. This is your kids being unruly and acting like untamed gorillas, just roving the streets. This is something that needs to be taken care of. And I am glad that, I'm not happy for the young man, but I am glad that he was involved in it, because I know so many Black people would have turned a blind eye to it simply because, oh, it's a white woman and she's getting what she deserved, or she's getting what our people had to deal with for so long. The story would have just gone, they wouldn't have cared. And so I am glad that this young man is having to speak out. I'm glad that this woman stepped in and she said that the police weren't doing anything. I think the police chief now, or they're trying to say they're outnumbered. And so they were told to kind of stand down. But this needs to fall back on the parents. What are you doing to raise your children to not be out there doing this? And this young man, he said he had his shoulder, he feels like is out of place. Something is going on with his nose. This is what's happening in Chicago, and it seems it's only going to get worse.
Where do you come down on the argument, and it's like Chris Rock alluded to it in his last stand-up special, like that Black people actually have a bigger problem with interracial couples than white people. You think that's accurate?
I definitely think Black women have a bigger issue seeing Black men with the white woman than they do when a Black woman gets with a white man. When a Black woman gets with the white man, Black women rally behind her. That's right, girl. White is right. You do that. They cheer her on. But when it's the other way around, they're just immediately angry. And so I definitely think that.
I'm going to be inappropriately transparent here. No one killed me. I'm sorry, I'm just being honest. I do feel some kind of way when I see a black woman with a white man. And
You
it's
do?
very hypocritical on my part. Oh, yeah. It's very hypocritical on my part. Very hypocritical. And I can't say it's well, I feel some sort of way about it. I do. And it's completely and totally hypocritical on my part, given my history. But I'm just, I can't explain it. That's just me being real.
I will say that I was riding with TJ and Hadley one of those times we were in Nashville, and they stopped me by the store. And as I was walking in, there was a black guy coming out, and I felt so convicted that he was looking in this car, and I was with two white men. I wanted to turn around and say, "No, we work together. It's not what you think." I just felt like he gave me this evil eye, like, "Sister, what are you doing?" And I just wanted to explain to him, it is not what you think. So, it's funny that you say that, because he didn't even say anything, but I immediately felt bad, like I needed to explain to him that, it wasn't what it looked like.
If and particularly with Jordan on here in a minute coming after you, my family will be watching today's show and very closely, and they'll hear me say this, and they're sitting there like, I wish I was there, because I'd slap the taste out of Jason's mouth for saying that. Me, white girls, he done brought it. I'm just being honest. I don't know why, but that is what I think. And it's not a super negative thing, and anybody that knows me knows, I ain't got no problem with white people, but I'm just keeping it real. And once I understood that, and then I understood how my father certainly felt about interracial, that's why I'm just not judgmental towards the white man that's like, nah, man, leave our women alone. I don't think that's a crazy thought for them to have. Just keeping it real. and so anyway, I'll give you the final thought while my family sits around and thinks about how they're going to attack me as soon as I come home.
Yeah, I used to tell my family, like my younger cousins, stay away from white women. I used to be that one to always give them those instructions, because my mother gave me that instruction as a little girl. Don't bring no white boys home. And I remember I went out with one time, and we were standing on the porch at my grandmother's house, and my mother's car drove up, and I could have just melted. Like, you could have bought me for 2 cents, because I was thinking, oh my God, my mama's going to embarrass me. She didn't say anything, but I can tell you, he was the last white person I've ever brought home. But now I'm a little bit more accepting, especially because I know interracial couples, and some of the women that my family have brought home, like, I love. I don't even see them as my white aunt. Is just my aunt, or, and so, but it's funny that you say that, because I was that person. Like, my cousins can tell you, I would be the one to tell them, don't you do it. Don't dare do it. But now, might be a little peace. And if you look at that young man in the video, looks like he chose peace over any other thing.
Well, I'm certainly now, I'm sitting here thinking about, I did it, but I'm thinking about my brother from another mother, and his daughter recently married a white dude. And I told him and everybody, I was like, they're getting married over shared values. Because I literally was telling my friend for years, because he got 2 beautiful daughters, and I was like, the way y'all raising your daughters and all of that, they're going to have a hard time finding a black man, because they're not going to have shared values with them. Y'all raising them in this Cosby environment, and all these black men are being raised in this baby mama matriarchal environment, divorced from the church. And I said, they're going to have a rough time. And I'm sitting here thinking about another partner of mine and his daughter. She got a white boyfriend. Got no problem with it. And all these girls I'm talking about, drop dead beautiful. Anybody would love to date them. But I get it when you've invested all that in your daughter and your kids, and you've instilled them with your values, and they got all these traditional values and blah, blah, blah. And do you, if everybody's gonna be tatted up and trying to be gangster and want to like Ja Morant, and they daughter's like, nah, I really don't want that. I want somebody that's got a little biblical foundation and all that other stuff. I can't be mad at them and bless them. Go get you somebody you equally yoke with spiritually and screw the rest. So anyway, we'll end on a more positive note than me getting trashed, because my mother will be blowing up my phone tonight, cursing me out, because she's got a little racial idolatry issue. I love you, Mama, but you got that. Anyway, thank you. Great job, Shamika.
Thank you.
Make sure you're hitting the likes. You're giving me those 5-star reviews on Apple. We're going to bring my little cousin Jordan Bowles back. He's been making it happen on the approval rating app. If you would do the same, you could be right here on the show talking some NBA with me or whatever you're interested in. Jordan Bowles, next. All right, welcome back. Time to roll out to West Lafayette, Indiana. We're going to bring back Jordan Bowles. He's been all over the approval rating app. I've been telling you guys, if you want to come on the show, download the approval rating app. It's in the App Store, the Apple Store on your iPhone. It's in the Google Play Store on your Android. Maybe you'll have a provocative take on someone. You'll attract my attention, and you'll be right where Jordan is right now. Jordan's an NBA enthusiast. As I told you all yesterday, or 2 days ago, his dad and I grew up together. His uncle and I grew up together. His his aunties grew up with me. I'm thinking Shelly, Rhonda. Why am I forgetting the most beautiful woman in the world? Why am I forgetting Bubby and Freddie's sister?
Gina?
She's the most beautiful woman in the world. Gina! Oh my God. Yes, Gina, I'm sorry. Charlene, I love you to death. Love your grandson. He did a great job. We'll see if you can do it again. Jordan, I thought we had talked about removing the Westbrook jersey. It's a bit of a distraction.
It's never happened.
It's a bad look for you. It's a very bad look for you.
It's a beautiful look. Beautiful look. I mean, just look at it. I mean, the numbers he put up in that is ridiculous.
Yeah, I don't get the Westbrook. It makes you look like there's no substance to you, but do what you want to do. You're a young guy. Dylan Brooks and the Memphis Grizzlies knock off the Lakers last night. Is that a fluke, or does Memphis actually have a shot in this series?
I won't say they don't have a shot, but what I will say is Dylan thinks he's poking a bear when he's really poking the king. Those are two completely different things. I don't know if you've ever read the book, The Odyssey. If you have not, it's a pretty good book. I had to read it my freshman year in high school. The Robert Fagel's translation, and Dylan and the Grizzlies are the suitors, and LeBron is Odysseus, the king, who has been gone for a little while, and the suitors think the king is dead. And now they're returning to the kingdom. Odysseus, LeBron, is going to L.A., and Dylan wants 40, and that's what LeBron's going to give him, 40.
Let's watch the clip, Jordan, of Dylan Brooks last night, basically saying LeBron's old and he doesn't have any respect for him. Play the clip.
The Lakers are making that run. They get it to 14. You and LeBron have that exchange. There are people out there that say maybe you shouldn't do that with one of the better players in the game. I guess what were you thinking?
I don't care. He's old. You know what I mean? I was waiting for that. I was expecting him to do that game 4, game 5. He wanted to say something when I got my 4th foul. He should have been saying that earlier on. But, I poke bears. I don't respect no one until they come and give me 40. I pride myself on, what I do is defense and taking on any challenge that's on the board.
You like Dillon Brooks, Jordan? Do you like what he's doing here? Are you a fan of Dillon Brooks?
I'd say I'm a fan of the animosity he's creating. I'm not a fan of him in general, like as a player. He doesn't do much for me, but I like his activity and what he's bringing. He's trying to bring LeBron up out the depths a little bit, and like in the Odyssey, Antinous, the head suitor, trying to take over the kingdom and say the king's dead, ends up being slayed by the king.
So you're thinking LeBron's going to drop 40. I've seen LeBron get riled up and drop 40. I saw the 48 special against Detroit. I saw Danny Granger, I think in 2012 with the Pacers, try to talk a little smack to LeBron, and LeBron dropped 40 on him. But 2012 is like 11 years ago. LeBron's 38 years old. I don't think he's going to do it. I think that he may fall for the bait here that Dillon Brooks wants LeBron trying to do too much on the offensive end. I think Dillon Brooks may be playing a mind game with LeBron James, and it might work.
I don't think so. I don't think so at all, actually. He got under LeBron's skin just a smidge in last night's game, and it's happened before for LeBron, but he bounces back that next game. I mean, we see Klay Thompson back in 2016. He said, I guess LeBron got his feelings hurt when Draymond rose up, called him a B word, gave him a shot below the belt, and LeBron comes in, they're down 3-1. I think Klay thought they had the series won. They dropped 3 straight, and they complete the comeback. Dillon has made a grave mistake, and he's going to pay the ultimate price.
Did I just see you got him rated at a 40 on your?
Yeah.
The man just won a playoff game, and you got him at a 40?
I don't think highly of Dillon Brooks at all. I don't know where your thought process is. It might be a little bit back in your day, so to speak. But like Kanye said before he went crazy, old folks talking about back in my day, but homie, this is my day. And I think my new age thinking is definitely going to outdate yours, and probably would outdate my father's, my uncle's, and anybody else who's up in age a little bit and has something to say about it.
A 40, that's too low for a man that just won a playoff game without Ja Morant. Did a good job. It's got to be higher than that. Last thing, I wonder if you have a take, because there's another little element that I don't think anybody's talking about in this, and I do like the fact that Dillon Brooks is bringing back bad blood to the NBA. The Memphis Grizzlies and the Lakers do not like each other. And there's another little element to this. Going back to LA, do you expect Shannon Sharpe, LeBron's biggest groupie, to play any role in Game 3 back at, it's not the Staples Center anymore, whatever they call it, the new arena for the
Crypto.com arena.
The crypto.com. You expect Uncle Shay Shay, LeBron's groupie, to play any role in Game 3?
I think Uncle Shay Shay is coming from the top rope. I watch Shay a lot, and all he lives and breathes the king. So Shay's going to be front and center, and Dillon Brooks has had history with Shay before, and I think it's going to be some flair again. Now they're losing. They don't have Steven Adams here to step to the front like he did back in L.A., but it's not going to matter. LeBron's going to slaughter the suitor in Dillon Brooks and the Grizzlies. And Shay's is going to come from the top rope and be that extra little muscle the Lakers need from the sideline.
You expect Shannon to be wearing his grandmama sweater again tonight, perhaps? Or will he be dressed a little better?
I don't know about Shannon's attire back in L.A., but I think he can put something really nice on. He has before, and I think he'll do a better job this time around. Me being a kind of a fashion icon-esque kind of guy. I think Shea can throw on some better fits for sure.
Yeah, I see. That must be my approval rating. I got Shannon at a 50. Oh, no, hold on. Is that
That's
your
me.
approval rating?
Yeah, that's my
You got
approval
Shannon
rating.
Sharp at I thought you liked Shannon Sharp. You're right there with me.
But I'd say he's not as great. But the younger, I'm a bit better than you. You didn't give him much. I mean, his brand, I think, is better.
I'm not
than
a Shannon
Zero.
Sharp fan.
And on social
I'm not a
media,
Shannon
I
Sharp
follow
fan.
it a lot. And the young generation loves Uncle Shea.
I know. Another sign your daddy didn't raise you right, but we'll take care of that next time I'm home. Thank you, Jordan. Great job. Tell Charlene. Gina, I apologize for Gina's the most beautiful woman in the history of the planet, and I forgot her name. I don't know how. I just talked to her yesterday. All right, anyway, play some tomorrow. We'll see you tomorrow.
Waiting for the countdown, coming off the breakdown, standing in line for freedom. Looking for a breakout, feeling like a standoff, nothing in life like freedom. Came in like a fighter, striking like a ladder, making all these moves for freedom. I want freedom. No negotiation, my sister, no relation. We all just wanna have freedom. Sitting on the corner, never been alone. I'm breaking my back for freedom. Blessed, we are living, get back. We are receiving, all deceiving. We all wanna be free. We want freedom. I wanna be. I just